Von der Heide.
Present.
Councilmember John Schrader.
Here.
Councilmember Chad Leakin.
Present.
Councilmember Dave Hurst.
Here.
Councilmember Paul Lori.
Present.
Councilmember Kevin Manley.
Here.
Councilmember Nancy Eckerly.
Here.
Councilmember Phil Mundi.
Here.
City Attorney Renee Kabrick.
Here.
Clerk Treasurer Kirsten Canese here. In order to have a quorum, a majority of the council members must be in attendance. All of the members are in attendance, which is a majority. Therefore, there is a quorum for this meeting.
Yeah, I'd like to take a moment for personal reflection. Thank you, and would all that are able please stand and join for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Minutes were sent out. Are there any additions or corrections to be made?
Seeing no additions or corrections.
We have two sets of minutes. Should we
Yep.
do individually or combine?
You can do them combined.
And I'll reiterate, seeing no corrections need to be made, I will make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Motion from Paul and a second from Kevin. Any other discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And this evening, we have a department presentation from the Arts Department. Mr. Kyle Rupert.
Good evening. Thank you for the time. I will try to be efficient and as thorough as possible. Quick update on what we've been doing this year, in the past, what we're currently working on, and things we're looking at on the horizon here. This would be as of August 2023. Is this going to do the thing? There we go. So I've got some by-the-numbers stuff for you here. So far through yesterday, we've had just over 8,800 visits to our galleries. Ticket sales for the year are approaching $87,000. We've had 164 workshop sessions, rental revenues around $65,000, and our total usage across all of our facilities and activities is $34,565. So what does any of that mean? So this is usage in perspective. This is going back to 2008. In 2021, we start breaking it out by what's happened at the auditorium versus what's happened at the cultural center, and then the gray area is anything that doesn't happen at either of those facilities. So we are currently on track to surpass what we did when we first opened the cultural center. And if you look at the cumulative by month, the top two lines are for this year and last year. So we are right about where we should be based on where we were last year as far as the usage of our facilities go. So that's good to see that you can see the gap there. It's like pretty much pre/during COVID and then after COVID. So we sort of have a new baseline there that we're setting here these first 2 years. Past projects, what have we been doing this year? Michelangelo, A Different View was a highlight. That was a special exhibit we were able to put on with support from the United Cabinet Foundation and Dean and Ellen Von der Heide. That brought in reproductions of the frescoes that are at the Sistine Chapel, or in the Sistine Chapel. So you didn't have to travel to Rome, didn't have to get on a plane, didn't have to deal with all those logistics. You could just stay here in Jasper or drive to Jasper and walk through and get up close and personal with works by one of art's masters. And that was very well received by folks from all over. We had several people travel in to see that exhibit as well, so we're very excited and fortunate to have had that. Also wrapping up our lobby remodel. So that space was about 30 years old. We've been updating it to improve the patron experience since the galleries moved down here to the Cultural Center. We've increased the restroom capacity in that space, and we've added some additional seating options as well as updating the finishes and fixtures in that space too. So that is just a few letters away from being all done and ready to go. And then we had our first art camp this year. So Camp Create was the brainchild of our education coordinator, Casey Ubelor, and it was 2 separate week-long art camps that were essentially half-day camps. They went 9 to 3, which is close to a full day. And we got great feedback on those as well, and it introduced kids ages 8 to 11 to a lot of different art styles and a lot of different artists. So that we look to do that again next year in the summer, and then if all continues to go well, expanding that to cover the school break times as well, so fall break, spring break, that kind of thing. The first camp had close to 30, and the second camp, I believe, had 25 students. That we require that they bring their own food. Yeah,
So you're charging $125
per student. Yep. We have had discussions about how we can work with local organizations or the schools to find a good way to go about offering a reduced cost option as well. We have done that in the past with limited success. This is going back years ago, but we have had conversations and look to have more conversations about how we can provide a means for maybe those where that might be a little steep. That is at cost. So that's cost of the instructors that teach all of the workshops, because each day it's multiple 40-minute sessions that are different styles, different artists. So that's materials, that's the instructor fees, et cetera for that. So we're not bringing anything extra for that, but we do want to provide a means so that everybody has the opportunity to participate if they want to. Oh, it does. Yeah. Currently, what are we working on now? Meet Danny Kopp. That's not the real Danny Kopp. That's just a picture of him. But he, beginning of September 1st, is going to be taking over all of the reins, all of the responsibilities of Doreen Lechner, who is retiring at the end of this month, next week, actually, after roughly 30 years of serving the city of Jasper. So he will be our new tech director / facility manager. We've been fortunate that he's been with us since about the beginning of July, and he's been like Doreen's shadow every minute of every day, soaking in all the knowledge that he can. He's excited. He's ready to go. We're excited to have him. So he will be working on our facilities and our technical aspects going forward. So we're excited to have him here. Live performances, preparations, and ticket sales are underway for the current season. We've got 1 show sold out already, about 4 others that are close to selling out, including Diamond Rio and Leia Salonga. So very excited about this season. There's a new public art project that's underway that you may have seen touted online. Laura Pommier, who lived here in Du Bois County for many years, last week started working on a mural that will transform the underpass there at the Riverwalk. So she's made great strides in getting that project completed. I was worried about the weather this week for her, but she said she's been getting cold down in Florida, so she was looking forward to the heat. She's probably the one person here that's looking forward to it, but yeah, so the response online so far has been fantastic on that project. We're very much looking forward to seeing her final product on that. And then our strategic plan. We are overdue for our next strategic plan. In the past, they've been 5-year plans. This new plan is a 3-year plan. A preliminary draft was submitted to the board back at our August meeting, and we have since put it on our website and invited the public to review it and provide feedback through a form online. It is anonymous so that people can hopefully feel free to say what they actually think. There is no bad feedback. There may be positive feedback and negative feedback, but none of it's bad. It's all feedback. And so I do have, if you would prefer a physical copy, I have physical copies here for you. I'll also be emailing it out as well for you to look at. But it covers starting in January 2024 through the end of 2026, and covers a lot of different aspects and goals for the department. And then what are we looking at for the future? Believe it or not, 2025 will mark 50 years since the Jasper Community Arts Commission was formed. So there will be discussions in the coming months about how we can appropriately celebrate that momentous occasion. That's going to be a big deal, so we want to make sure that we pay homage to all that came before. And then looking at continued facility improvements, we've got one facility that continues to age and another that has seen increasing usage as it continues to get discovered by more and more people. So how can we best improve those facilities? These include things like the stage floor at the auditorium. We've been refinishing it. Eventually, it'll just have to be replaced. Updating the lighting technology in there, so we can use what's called conventional lighting now, which requires the use of a material that we call gels to get us different colors. The industry is fast moving to LEDs, which are more energy efficient and requires fewer instruments in order to get similar looks. And that technology is not only improving in its color matching capabilities, but coming down in cost as well. So we'll be looking at that in the future at some point. And at the cultural center, as the building gets used more and more, and we get more feedback from renters and users, more opportunities come to our attention for improving the facility as well. And we'll work with the library on those too, where it makes sense.
Kyle, at the Arts Center, are you finding that some of the performers you're trying to get want other things than what the Arts Center, the stage area, whatever, can supply currently?
So the main things we run into when it comes to trying to book an artist and limitations would be we don't have stage level dressing rooms, so they're not accessible. The dressing rooms aren't large enough oftentimes. So if an artist is willing to, they will work with us. We can provide alternate accommodations, but that's usually trying to find other rooms to fit them into. It's not really a dressing room. It may be the green room or the dance studio downstairs that they have to use as a dressing room. The accessibility thing I mentioned is probably the biggest one. There's no stage level restrooms either, which is a big issue. Beyond that, it really comes down to the fly space, which I will just share structurally. The facility we can't add it. If we had unlimited funds, we couldn't add it to that current structure, just couldn't take the weight. So we'd have to tear that building down and build a new one. And then beyond that, as far as the notoriety of certain artists and where they're at in their career, it just comes down to seating capacity. There are artists who won't perform in any venue that's fewer than 1,000 seats, fewer than 5,000 seats, et cetera, et cetera. So, and we don't have the depth or the width to add seating. So those are the big limitations right now. The things we can address, things that we've looked at addressing, is mainly the accessibility, getting it so that folks who are either artists or patrons can get to various points in the building safely, and that meet all of their accessibility needs. Yeah. And then special exhibits. So the success of the Michelangelo exhibit has inspired additional conversations from donors and staff and artists alike about what we can continue to do to bring in people to our community. So that's what we're working on for the future. These are all highlights. I mean, there's much more, but I don't want to take up everyone's time. Feel free to call me, though.
Questions for Mr. Rupert? Yeah, that's about as concise as I've ever seen you be.
Boom. And clock it.
You did a great job with that.
I talked to her while when she was last night. I got extremely talented. My gosh, I wish I had a tenth of that talent, but she's done a great job. It's really
Yeah.
If you get the chance to look at it, I recommend you go down and look at it.
It's going to be really special, and tourism and Heart of Jasper and Community Foundation. There are a lot of players that are involved in making that happen. So very excited to see that area. I know Tom with Parks and Rec, I think, was excited to finally see something happen in that area too. So yeah.
Thanks,
Thank
Kyle.
you.
Take one, though. I'll take one of your, got a good reading day tomorrow. It's going to be 97 degrees.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have the door discussion. So, Josh, are you presenting anything at this point, or just?
I believe it just happened to be on your agenda, and I just happened to be here, so that being the case, if there's any questions or anything
I did pass out, and you can have one of these too. It's
I'm familiar
for a
with.
law.
Yeah, there's 19 articles, and Renee and Jane and the 2 legal interns and myself have all gone through them, and what we're proposing.
But the council probably hasn't seen the laws actually as it's written.
Josh, I'm intrigued to here again, maybe I'm not understanding it, but you emphasized, or they emphasized several times, the impact it would have to the merchants in the downtown area. Can you talk a little bit about that? How do you feel that's going to help them? I don't see that.
Sure. I think the general idea is placemaking and creating a destination of sorts, and giving another activity for patrons to visit the area, both in the downtown and toward the riverfront district. I believe other states have seen an increase in tourism and expenditures at their local merchants in these districts. Of course, we're just looking at Indiana just adopting it less than a month ago, so we don't have any Indiana based locations to say. So we're basically an experiment at this point.
When they look at the demographics of the people they're trying to cater this to, do they stress a certain age group, or is it, any thoughts on that?
Again, there's nothing in Indiana. I don't know if there's anything that Ohio has studied, but anybody 21 and over, I mean, I know people of all ages, 21 plus, that, frequent, drink alcohol, or whatever the right term may be.
Can I add, just from my conversations with the interns as they were going through this, I think that what the hope is to create an atmosphere that allows just for a more relaxed opportunity for people to walk in and out and maybe go to pub and grub, but while they're waiting for their table, walk around and look at window shop, or maybe hopefully there'll be some stores open and go in and shop in the stores and just come down, as Josh said, and make this a destination for a longer period of time.
So they wouldn't do that if they didn't have a beer in their hand?
Well, some would, but maybe some wouldn't.
As we look at placemaking as a whole, it's always a complex. There are multiple layers involved. You yourself may not, want to come down and drink or whatever, or you may not want to shop at Just Whimsy, but they both can exist in the same space and they can draw larger crowds of people. Or your wife may want to go to Just Whimsy while you go have a beer or whatever. And this would not be the only, potential mechanism to draw people down there. It's just another layer in the scheme of things.
I get that. I don't want to take away anything that would help the merchants, because I think it's anything we can do to bring additional people to the downtown area. I just don't feel personally that this is the right thing. And again, Renee and I have had some conversations about that, and I've expressed my opinion on it. I am a non-drinker in a drinking community, and I get that. I don't try pushing my thoughts or beliefs onto other people in there, so I'm cautious on walking that line, so I try not to step over that and push what my thoughts onto other people in there. But I've asked a lot of people at work and different ones, and one of the comments that came back to me that kind of stuck, and it made me think a little bit, but normally when the bulk of the people who are going to probably walk out of the bars with a drink or whatever, the businesses are probably already closed. The only thing this did was, in the words of one of them, and I'm not trying to lump anybody into a category, but he basically said it brought the obnoxious drunks from being inside of a bar to outside a bar where there's young kids. And I have issues with that. So I just don't, here we are talking about a wellness center in one hand, and then, stressing the importance of that and saying that, Indiana and Du Bois County, in general, we're at the bottom of all these health and fitness ideas, and then, hey, while we're doing this, let's think of a way to make it easier for everybody to walk around drunk. Again, just my opinion on it. I was a little harsh on that. That's a concern of mine. I don't think that's the right image that we want to do, and I especially don't think that's the right image that, with all the issues with alcohol-related issues with children and stuff like that, I just don't think this is the image that I personally like to I will vote no against this, so just an FYI. So.
Well, may I speak to that as well, Phil? Because I understand what you're saying from that perspective, and we're all concerned about the influence on the youth and concerned with drug abuse and that kind of thing. you know, what I see when, today we regulate a person that leaves a bar and the bartender is liable for over serving. Okay, I mean, that's still in place. That's not gone away. There's still some of those measures that take care of that kind of thing. This is just to create a more recreational atmosphere where it's a casual, you can walk, gather with friends and go about from one place to another, one store to another. It was initiated through the Heart of Jasper and merchants. It's not something that was dreamt and brought up. It was initiated. It was actually, Senator Messmer went to work to support our downtown. Trying to get this passed at the state legislature.
I'm gonna,
So there are examples in Ohio and Michigan, other states where this has worked well and the environment is not a bunch of drunks on the street.
I'm gonna agree to disagree with you on that one. So I don't see that. I don't see it helping the merchants. I don't see anything good coming out of this thing. I'm sorry, I just don't see it.
I would caution you to label us as a drinking community because the stats and statistics show that that's not really the case, and that's kind of been a misnomer that we've kind of self-adopted. Our rates are no higher than anybody else in the state.
I meant that. My apologies.
Thank you.
I didn't mean to lump anybody into a category. I just, again, I'm just concerned about the image of it, and more than anything else, when it comes to, you know, in the same respects, we want these children to be walking around and with their families. I think if it's going to be a family-oriented thing, I just question why we have to have alcohol involved. And my other last point on that one, and then I'll be quiet, but I just think that this is just another avenue for somebody to walk out of a bar with a drink and go even further to their car before they get in and drive. Sure. Again, just my opinion, sorry.
You've listed 9 establishments that hold liquor license in the proposed district, and they've all expressed interest. I would like to see a list of the retail businesses or other businesses that are supporting this. Because, I mean, we've verbally heard some of them, and we've certainly have heard from the interns. I've probably seen this presentation 10 times, but I've not really heard any merchant speak up or sign a petition or whatever they would do to support this. I would like to see that angle of it.
I believe the Downtown Merchants has a early September meeting. I don't know that date, but Heart of Jasper is attending that meeting with the intent of getting that information. So, thank you.
My opinion, to interject in here, I don't have a problem with the door at this point. Again, with the Heart of Jasper and the merchants claiming they want to be there, for them doing the Otanabam days where they have guest artists and potentially wineries and vendors come in and offer drinks, and we're doing the sips and shopping, staying open a little later right now. Sounds to me like they might be on board, and I'm not running and gunning, because the guy that's going to go in the bar and have 5 beers and go out and get in his car is still going to go to the bar and have 5 beers and get in his car. My thought on this was more along the lines of maybe we can grab some destination shoppers from the out of town, the Bloomingtons, the Newburghs, where they come up and hit our boutiques rather than our kind of people going down to their boutiques, or 4th Street, having girls' day or ladies' outings in there. More shopping items down there. Not that everybody that can't go and shop, but most of them are geared towards ladies. I feel like a couple clothing stores downtown that still geared towards everyone. But that's my thought, is if we can get a group of women to come into town, have lunch at one of our restaurants, maybe grab a glass of wine and walk around and shop the finishing touches, whimsies, elements. These kind of places in there. That's where my head's at, or the new boutique we have coming in, the running shop in there. I don't have a problem with it. My concern was more what we had originally talked about was the residents that were living there and close to there. And again, I don't know. If it was me and I lived there, I'd probably just grab a Dora cup and go. But that's my easy answer. Not the right answer, but that would be my easy answer.
I have a question also on the Tin Clark Cultural Center, which appears to be in the district. So would people be allowed to be at a function there and carry drinks out of there? I've not.
Does the Tin Clark hold a liquor permit? No. Then
Well, yeah.
They have to be a temporary vendor serving from there. No, go ahead, please.
So if they walked in with the cup from somewhere else, they could walk in with it and walk back out with it. Maybe that's not what you're
They're not
asking.
being served there.
Being at a wedding there,
Oh, I got, okay.
having a drink and going outside with that, I don't know how that fits into this law.
I would guess if they had a third-party vendor that had a Dora, was a participant of the Dora liquor license, in this case, I'm thinking.
There are several things that would have to occur, and they would have to be listed as a temporary vendor that comes before you currently. They would have to be operating at a approved temporary vendor location, which is currently modeled after the food truck ordinance, so the Tin Clark place is not one of those places. So those things would all have to happen before that instance could legally happen. Anything to add?
That it's intended to cover special events that we identify or that come through the city and get approved as a special event, which I don't think a wedding would be intended.
Like Sip and Shop, for example. But if a business had a temporary vendor, let's say, we'll just use Just Whimsy, although that's not for the publication, Kathy. But anyway, if they hired a temporary bartender, which isn't on this list, say it's a winery, legally, that person would not be really legally to carry that drink out of Just Whimsy and walk around with that cup, according to the Dora. So those are some things I think the merchants need to know, because sometimes they do that. They might have a winery in their business, but the person really shouldn't be able to leave that business with that glass of wine.
If I may, at the October Sip and Shop, I walked around and spoke to 5 different individuals, and most of them were lamenting that they had to hire and have a liquor permit for that day and doing this. And I think they would all be much more happy to have an establishment here in the area serving them that are able to take that onus on themselves. Going back to something Mr. Mundy and Mr. Lori said about the stores not being open and really it only being predominantly women's stores, for lack of a better phrase, it's a chicken or egg situation. If we keep talking about this being a destination and a place we're trying to grab people and grow economically, which has to come first? And there's not a right answer, and there's ways to do it each way, but this is just another tool in the arsenal which we've been given by state statute to try. And again, this is, we're totally running an experiment here. It's well within your rights here after we run this experiment for a year or whatever to say this isn't working for us, or the cons are far outweigh the pros, and roll it back. That's all within your power. One thing I don't necessarily like is when we're always playing catch up. You know, we're always sitting on our hands and waiting, and I'm not saying about this in general, just in general. You know, maybe we look at it as an experiment, not something we're setting in stone.
Josh, do you know where the,
Anything that would help the merchants out when it comes to that.
And I have another question. So if a merchant allows a Dora cup into their business, do they also have to register to be a approved location? And, no, they don't.
They do,
You're saying no.
for a retail establishment to distinguish whether or not they allow a Dora cup and get the sticker, they can change that at a moment's notice. We do not have to list who the retailer is. Now, I'm talking retailers, fashion people, and Just Whimsy, et cetera, not people serving alcohol, not those retailers.
No, I mean just a
The
regular.
business at any point can change how they feel about that. If after the first week it doesn't work for Just Whimsy, they just reach out to Heart of Jasper and we'll print them out a new sticker, and they're no longer allowing those types of items in their.
Well, couldn't they have both stickers, a red and a green? And so let's say one evening they decide, well, I'm going to put the green out, and then someone, I don't know, does something silly. And so the next time they're like, you know what, I'm going to go with the red sticker this time.
That's certainly within their rights and their prerogative.
But do they have to register originally in that, that's not in this packet, it's in a different packet that I have, some kind of a registration form? Or is that only for the liquor
I
vendor?
think that's probably for the liquor vendors. There's an application for that we have to collect and maintain. prior to our application to the state for the DORA district, but retailers can come and go as they please.
That was the question I had at the first reading we had it. So if we got a new restaurant that opened, would they have a waiting period or grace period? And it would just be the registration sticker, right? They'd have to produce a liquor license.
So when you're
Outside the
talking a
door.
restaurant, you're not talking about a new liquor establishment, you're talking about just a restaurant, is that correct?
I'm at a new restaurant that happens to serve beer, wine.
Would approach us, they would fill out an application. You guys would have to amend the ordinance to allow them into that. We would have to, based on your amendment of the ordinance, amend the ATC application.
So there's a waiting period.
Little waiting period.
Correct. Correct, but it's nothing normal or unnormal that they're not already dealing with the ATC in regards to liquor.
Put the orange stickers up that they've applied for.
The timing falls hand in hand.
So Josh, did I understand you correctly when did you say that there's not an existing DORA in Indiana?
Lawrenceburg, no. Well, maybe. I'm unaware of that one. Lawrenceburg is first to have it approved, and October 1st is their first date.
I think, Paul, you said there was one in Owensboro?
There is, at the river.
Downtown Owensboro.
How long have they had theirs?
I can't answer that. I just know that 18 months ago, we stumbled into it. And it was.
I think
Park was renewed.
Yeah.
since they've done Fridays
After 5 down there.
I would be curious to know if local businesses in that DORA have experienced any positive or negative results. I mean, we have any statistics on that?
I think you saw the ones when the interns did that in Ohio, that they said that the
Right.
one had 30% increase in his.
Yeah. Correct. And building on that, I believe they had 17 municipalities return that survey. One was neither pro nor con, and I apologize, I'm going off my memory. It might have been 7, but the remainder all had a positive experience overall. Any other questions?
Questions or thoughts about the DORA?
This is still something that we are still working through while, Nancy, we've presented this to you 10 times. You can attest that it's certainly evolved over those 10 times. It's our hope in the next week or so to kind of solidify this, get it to you, and then I just would let you know that we are in public open house to make them aware of it. That'll be September 6th at 6 o'clock prior to the BZA meeting scheduled at 6:30 in these chambers. So prior to that point, you'll be given a final copy of what our intended proposed ordinance for the Jasper Social District is prior to that open house.
So we'll get at least a draft ordinance prior to September 6th.
I would hope before the end of the month, but we're still working through it.
what we currently have in that memo that I sent to you, didn't I?
In your, I don't know where you gave this handout the other day.
Yeah, it's the last section of that memo.
I'm just wondering, like on this one, the last page here, this one, why it has to go to 11 PM. Because definitely the stores aren't open till 11. Could we experiment with 9 or 10 or something like that instead of all the way? 11's kind of late. People really aren't even out and about much until 11.
The only thing I can see where 11 o'clock is even, and it's just my personal observation when we're down there, even the restaurants are usually closed by 9:30, 10 o'clock or so, would be an Astra event. If somebody came out after the Astra and somebody did stay open late for a post-concert or a movie or whatever it might be during that time. But
Could be.
that's the only thing I can see right now that I see happening on a regular basis downtown.
Well, that is the reason that I sent the draft out, so you can take a look at those and send your feedback on any of the items that are included in the ordinance.
That's exactly right. And that's why I reached out to each of you individually to have these conversations so we could come to a consensus. And in the conversations that I did have, 11 was kind of the consensus that was agreed was okay. But again, I'll let you, this is your call. This is your power to enforce. So if as a whole, the council decides that 9 o'clock is the appropriate hour, then by all means. And again, I'll just tell you that, if you look at it as an experiment and we review it in a year and we say 9 o'clock's still too late, it's got to be 7, or 9 o'clock, we've not had any problem, but here's 1, 2, 3 different times where it probably should have been a little bit later because we had X, Y, and Z, it's well within your power to change that.
Josh, I appreciate you addressing questions about that.
I would have no problem if you were gonna do a Sunday through Thursday, 9 or 10, and Friday, Saturday, 11. I mean, to me, that's a reasonable, I don't see too many ASHRAE events. Again,
The only problem with that is the signage. It gets
Sure.
rather confusing.
sure.
Okay. Well, and obviously, we've got a lot more discussion on this topic, but as it evolves, I think it's. Next on the agenda is the ordinance number 2023-15, which is an ordinance adopting a 1% municipal food and beverage tax. Could I have a motion to read the ordinance on the third and final reading in full or by title only?
I'll make a motion to read by title only.
I have a motion from Kevin,
I'll second.
second from John. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Would the city attorney please read the ordinance by title only?
Ordinance number 2023-15, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Jasper, Indiana, adopting a 1% municipal food and beverage tax.
Motion to approve the ordinance on the third and final reading.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion from Kevin,
I'll second.
John. Further discussion? I do have a couple comments about it. I know this is, I wasn't able to be at the last meeting, and I appreciate the movement that was made on this. This is a foundational step toward our part of the financial stack. It's one of the initial steps that has to take place to afford to be able to do something of the magnitude we're talking about. The financial modeling has been dynamic, as you well know. It's changing, it's continuously changing, and until we get to next year about this time, when we really know what kind of funds we've gathered toward this. But without this, I don't see going forward in asking people to contribute toward a project of this magnitude. I'd have a struggle if the council couldn't get behind it. I'd have a struggle with that, because we've had numerous support from restaurants. We've had some people talk about they don't believe in it, but I really think this makes a difference in whether we go forward or not with our regional wellness center. It's my personal opinion on it. I wish there were other means that we could fund it, without having any implications, but here, with this specific, it's going to allow us to collect funds from those individuals that come here, they shop here, they're here recreationally, they're here touring, they're visiting, they help pay for it. It's not just falling on the residents of the community. So I wanted to let you know that. I also know, I followed up, Chad, you requested a question, what was the timeline in order to get the first of the year implemented? And we received confirmation from our consultant that it was a 120-day timeline that the Department of Revenue needs in order to get through this. So if we did it now, we could get through it, but if we wait another month, it would be later that it would be implemented. And can we move it back a month? Can we move it back 2 months? Probably, but what's the impact then on bookkeeping for the restaurants, their fiscal years, I don't know. It just becomes more complex if you don't start it at the beginning of the year, I think. And we obviously need the funding in order to launch this program, this wellness center.
And also, just to add to what the mayor said, there is fundraising efforts going on right now. So if this is a piece of it, then we can explain the
Stack.
the stack to those people that are contributing, are committing to a lot of money. They're contributing, we're shooting for $15 million. That's a big ask, and I think they want to have confidence, you know. I think when you're out pitching that, they want to have confidence that this thing's gonna, you know, it's gonna make it. But this is only one piece, the food and beverage tax. And I said this earlier, but I'll just add this anyway. In Indiana, there's 34 either communities or counties that have the food and beverage tax in place towards a specific capital improvement project. And that's the way the law was up until just a few weeks ago, July or something, that said we could put it on anything. Well, that's not what we want to do with it. That's why we amended our ordinance, because I guess Indiana is it's either 46th or 48th in wellness out of 50 states. And this is an effort to try to get us to push forward, to try to correct some of that and improve health. So, and again, this is just one piece, but it doesn't do any, if we want to do this, we should keep moving forward with it. That's my take. Because if I was going to give money to it, I wouldn't want it to this piece isn't there yet, that piece isn't in the plan. I wouldn't want that. I would want to know what the whole plan is, and this is just one piece of it. So that's my 2 cents.
I think there's a lot of, from my perspective, I think this could be a major piece for the city of Jasper. I think it's just could be the greatest thing, you know, that we could put in place. My only concern is the referendum part of it. I just want to, I guess, a question on that. Is the referendum asking if we want it or don't want it, or if we want the additional, are we asking for the ability to raise the taxes or not raise the taxes? In other words, I think I'm a little concerned about if somebody says, or if it gets voted down, and I certainly hope it doesn't, because again, I think this is just could be a great thing for our community. But if it does get voted down, I question why we're going forward on it, because is the referendum going to say that we want it or we don't want it, or that we just, from the tax aspect of it?
The intent right now, and it always has been, is that the referendum, if we had to go to a referendum, there's good chance we may not have to, but we feel like the public needs to at least state their feelings on this, if it is going to be a property tax backed bond. And that, even if we have all the money in place, we still want it to be a property tax backed bond to get the lower interest rate, because on that big of a dollar, it's a significant impact on the financial models.
Right. I want to make sure that we're clear. If we go forward and we develop a capital plan that does not require the bonds to be paid from property taxes, but there are other revenue sources, for example, the food and beverage tax, edit, TIF. If we come up with a capital plan that completely covers the bond payments, then it would be a property tax backup that would allow us to have a lower interest rate. Otherwise, a referendum is required, and that means that property taxes are going to be used to pay a portion of the bond payment. So that's why we can't determine what the implications are from a tax rate perspective at this time, because we're still developing what that payment plan looks like. We've come up with 3 big chunks of that payment plan, which is hopefully food and beverage, edit, and some TIF. And those 3 sources together cover at least $1.5 million in bond payments annually. Right now, if we borrow $22 million, which is what you've seen, if we raise $15 million and borrow 22, that bond payment is, these are estimated rough numbers, is about $2.1 million, which means that we would need to come up with about another $600,000 in a different revenue source or in property taxes. So one requires a referendum, the other one doesn't.
Or we scale it to what we can afford without.
That's right.
We also haven't heard back from the state, which you've
We-
spoken with them.
Right. And we won't until next spring.
Governor Holcomb today at the AIM conference said that they are going to have grants available for wellness. That's what he talked about at lunch, because the state is going to push, they're going to push forward to try to improve this. We don't want to be 46th, in the nation. So he's got it on his plan to actually move forward with it.
I think it's important to, you're exactly right. And anytime, we are for sure going forward with every grant opportunity that we can find. We will apply to every grant out there. But having something like a food and beverage tax, which is already passed, makes our application much more competitive. It shows that we are committed to the project. And so, I think the mayor and Kevin both echoed those sentiments that, whether it's a grant application or sitting in front of someone who you're asking to be a donor, we have to exhibit commitment to the project.
I think that the residents have already expressed the need for this facility, and the fact that the Impact Jasper comprehensive plan had it listed as one of the top priorities. So we're not asking them to approve a facility or approve going forward with that. We're asking them for if anything, the financial backing for it, if anything.
I just wanted to clarify that because I've been getting asked that a lot. People were saying that, there's obviously a lot of people out there that absolutely love it and think it's a great idea, and I do as well. But there are a few of them that are coming in and saying, well, if I vote no for it, I'm voting no for the whole project. And I said, no, I don't think that's really, in essence, what we're asking.
No,
I just wanted to make sure I can explain it.
Yeah, and you're right. That was made clear as soon as we started the capital campaign, that the referendum is not intended to be a go or no go.
it's a go,
I
it's
just
a
think
matter
lot
of
people
scale.
assume a referendum, that's what's going to happen. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a go, it's a matter of scale, and, where we fall with fundraising and how we get the capital stack put in place. When we get into next summer, we should be able to tell whether we can be able to afford to do an entire project as presented, or if we have to phase it over time. Because, from that standpoint, the community's already stated they want it.
What I'd like to see going forward is Plan B. So Plan A is the 37 million. And we talk about phasing, but we've never seen Plan B. Let's say, just like this effect on property taxes. Well, if it's this amount or this amount or this amount, that's fine. But what about in the raising of the funds and the attributing other funds toward the project? So we know what a $37 million project looks like. We've all seen those drawings. But what does a $25 million project look like, or a $20 million or whatever? I would like to see some, at least renderings on a napkin or something of what those projects would look like, so that we can actually tell people, well, if this amount is not raised and you don't want your property taxes increased, then this is the project that we would be looking at with those dollars.
And I think we can do that next summer, because we'll have a feel for what time we should spend on it. One, engineering and development of a project in whole is going to be less expensive than doing it in phases. So until we're forced to do it in phases or scale it back again, because we have scaled it back, it was considerably larger than what it is today. Until we're forced to do that because of funding gaps, then I think we continue to move forward with the plan as it exists. with knowing that we may have to take time out and scale it back if we don't have the funds in place. And if at that point, if the community does have a referendum to back it with property tax and votes it down, then we know we've got to scale it back.
I've had several people asking, again, like all of you have, from the community, and sharing, attempting to share these positive and negative on there, and ask all the time, well, what does it mean we're gonna build something? And I said, well, we're gonna phase it. Again, at this point, I believe it's gonna go forward, we're gonna build something in there now, whether that something is the indoor gymnasium spaces with the track around the top of it, in there, and we take the pool out, we take some of the community rooms out, we phase in whatever we're going to do, something's gonna be there if we're coming this far in the planning stages and for the wellness portion. We know what $37 million gets us in there. We've got an indoor pool facility, we've got an indoor rehabilitation or exercise facility, we've got 3 gymnasiums with another walking track in there, a community kitchen, some other rooms we've talked about, restrooms, and facilities, again, that help the Guard move forward with their partnership as well, and the hospital. And the YMCA comes in and runs the day-to-day in there. So that was a big one that I've said all along. I'm happy to get on board and build what we can afford. And if we need to phase it beyond that, that's the simple answer is, so.
I think we're all in that position where if we have to phase it, we will phase it, but we don't know what those phases would look like until we know where our capital lies.
It just, at some point, it would be nice to see those, so when we answer people, well, we'll build something. Well, build something is, you can build a garage or you can build a whatever, but
And I hope I wasn't speaking out of turn and
I
saying,
will only say to that point that we have talked to our bond counsel, because obviously there is an implication in going through a referendum and being unsuccessful. So if we do go through the referendum process and we are unsuccessful, then we cannot build the same project that we have identified for the referendum. It has to be a substantially different project. And so the easiest, I guess, change in the project is to say, well, then we'll remove the aquatics part of it. I mean, just because that's that's one big expensive section of the project, and have been told that if that's what we do, then that we could build. So that would be a substantially different project enough that it would not, it would be compliant with all kind of referendum rules and
so would that have to go to a referendum again?
because that would be a project that we could build without
With the finances in place.
property tax.
As of today, it appears to me there are 2 paths forward to building a wellness center without impact to property taxes. One would be if those private donations reach that $24 million level, or any combination of donations and grants. The second way would be if we had to scale it. We know that we've identified sourcing right now that we're in control of that can fund a $13.1 million bond. So that would be an example of a scaled project. But again, what does it?
Increasing property tax.
Increasing property taxes. So again, that is something I would very much like to see. What does that look like? And in my mind, that's the first thing I think of is build it without the aquatic center, and then go from there if that's the path forward. If we do increase property taxes, the current numbers are saying, I don't know, this was something that I found today, but the $37 increase, that's the impact on a $200,000 home, to give you an idea of what we're really talking about. In the sales world, we make that number as small as we possibly can. That comes out to 10 cents a day for a $200,000 homeowner.
the other thing I want to make sure that we point out, because I have clarified this to several people that say, well, this is going to impact my property taxes. We keep saying that property tax. We're trying to make it a net zero gain on there. We have actually lowered our property tax rate the last 2 years in a row from the city and the county, but the state's assessed value has gone up and is going to go up again this year. And so trying to explain that to people to understand that your property tax bill, when you see it go up right now, is not necessarily a reflection of what we're doing up here at this point on a twice a year annum, it's a lot of that is coming down from the state level.
But I think that's something that people are sensitive to, though. Rate is one thing, but the tax bill
Dollars is dollars.
is another.
Bills went up even though our rate went down.
We've got to be aware of that.
But we can only manage our rates.
We can manage our
Cannot
rates.
manage-
That's right. We can't manage the state.
You know, I think with what you're relating to with the dollar amount of the home, it's the same thing how the library got, the referendum got approved. You know, it came out with, okay, we got $15 million raised plus this source. You know, we had a bond a certain amount. It's $62 on a $30,000 home. Or $300,000 home. I mean, that puts it in light with what it would, basically my home would be worth about $300,000. It cost me $62 a year to help with this. Yeah.
But moving forward as a council, we have other projects that are going on.
Yeah.
Some of these may already have dollars attributed to them, but we still have to finish the downtown project, including North and South Main Streets. We have to decide on the financing for one fire truck and possibly 2 fire trucks. We're building the outdoor pool. There's one or
$2.
Well, I understand. I said some of these have finances already attributed to them, but these are a lot of expenses that are going on in our community. There's still 1 or 2 more phases at the Parklands that we haven't even addressed yet that are in the Parklands master plan. And then there is maintenance on those Rojack projects that the city inherited from Rojack that is a lot of money also. So what I'm just saying is what we said in the previous administration is let's get some things done and just get some projects completed. And although they are in the completion stage, those are a lot of things I just said that are still haven't even started yet. So I just want to point that out, that we have a lot of things going on.
Many of them are phases, and they've been planned phases with funding attached to them. Right. And so, I mean, that doesn't scare me. I think we can sit back and do nothing, or we can do something that the city, the residents have said is a high priority.
We're in better financial shape than probably 80% of the cities in the state of Indiana.
I disagree. I would say 90.
Okay.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but we also, from the public's perspective, we're spending a lot of money, and they have to understand that there are funding sources for these projects, but it's also, we need to get some things completed, because people like to see things done.
We are.
We're not leaving things
All of the things that we've done have been public-private partnerships. The people in our community said we want it. They've been willing to give money to it. We've got a financial plan for everything that we've got out there, that we know the next phase is, what the next bond. We are bonding some things we didn't bond, but without bonding, we couldn't fix the square. Without bonding, you can't fix the infrastructure that we need fixed. And all of that, while we're doing all of that, our tax rate is going down. I understand the state, our dollar has gone up. Well, inflation has driven that up. We didn't have a thing to do with that. I think we're managing our finances, we're managing our community, we're moving it forward better than 90%.
90%. Again, looking at the report we got here today, when I look at our tax rate that we had this year, that was $2.34 per $100 assessed value in there in Jasper, and we got Holland at 266 and Huntingburg at 275. I think we're doing pretty good.
And what's next year's?
Yeah, well,
It's going down more,
it's going down again. Yeah.
so. Okay, Mayor.
other questions about the
If,
food and beverage tax?
just to clear my mind again, if the only reason we're gonna have a referendum is because we have to use property tax to pay off the bond. Is that a correct answer?
Yes.
If we do not have financing in place, and
Right, and so.
to get the lower
And
tax
if we
rate.
have finance in place, we won't use any property tax to pay the bond off.
Correct.
And
It will
that's-
be listed as a backup so that we can get a lower interest rate.
Interest rate.
But
There will not be any property tax increase without it being voted on again here, or?
Well, that would be true. It would have to be voted on.
there won't be any property taxes used specifically to pay the bond unless we go to a referendum.
Okay. Thanks.
That's, I mean, it is, it's extremely confusing because of all the inputs, the things that we've been trying to assemble.
I just want to be able to tell a person when they ask, are you raising the property taxes? I'm going to tell him, no, we're not going to raise them if we have the cash to take care of the bond. If there is not enough cash, we will have to have a referendum to decide if we're going to go
That's right.
with the property tax backed bond. Good?
And do we want to mention that we are well over halfway to the $15 million goal in verbal commitments at this point, or are
I
we?
think you just did.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
And believe me, I'm not saying anything, I'm not against anything, but I want to know for sure what I'm telling people, and it is the truth in what I'm telling them, that they know that that's the way it's going to be, so, thank you.
51% of the voters would have to vote to enact that bond, property tax through the referendum. And if that's the case, then those taxes would go up.
Go
But
up,
short of
yeah.
that, I mean, if we can fund it otherwise, we've got some time between now and then, but
Yeah.
that,
No,
Which is our goal, and whether we get there or not, that's why we need to know where we're gonna be and what kind of security do we have with the project.
Again, I just wanted to hear it out loud here, you know, so.
Thank you,
It's on
Dave.
record here.
But Dave, that's not for sure that we wouldn't raise property taxes to pay for some of this project.
It's the referendum.
That's what the referendum would be. So that's why the wording of the referendum is so critical,
I understand.
It won't be until next summer.
Yeah.
where the wording is put together, yeah.
Who puts that together, by the way? Who does the wording of the referendum? Just curious.
We'll be working with our consultants, bond counsel.
All right.
Okay, any other comments about the food and beverage tax? Good dialogue. I have a motion from Kevin and a second from John to approve ordinance number 2023-15 on the third and final reading. If there's no other questions, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
aye,
Any opposed? Okay. Ordinance number 2023-15 passed. And now is when a lot of the work takes place. Okay, ordinance number 2023-16. Ordinance establish a food and beverage tax receipt fund. This is the same thing, it's on the third and final reading. Should I have it in full or by title only?
Make a motion, we read by title only, please, Mayor.
A motion,
Second that.
favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Would the city attorney please read ordinance number 2023-16 by title only?
Ordinance number 2023-16, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Jasper, Indiana, establishing a food and beverage tax receipts fund.
Could I have a motion to approve the ordinance on the third and final reading?
So moved.
Second, I'll second that.
Okay, John and then Dave. Any further discussion on this? All right, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
aye,
Any opposed? Okay, ordinance 2023-16 has been passed. Next is ordinance number 2023-18. Could I have a motion to read the ordinance on the second reading in full or by title only?
Make a motion to read that by title only.
Motion from Nancy to read by title only.
Second?
And a second from Paul. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
aye,
Any opposed? Would the city attorney please read ordinance number 2023-18 by title only?
Ordinance number 2023-18, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Jasper, Indiana, recommending a change in fees for the use of a city-owned cemetery.
Could I have a motion to approve the ordinance on the second reading?
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion from Kevin.
I'll second.
I have a second from Dave. Further discussion? I think you went into quite a bit of discussion last meeting. I wasn't here. But,
Lisa did a good job informing us.
questions, I'll go ahead and call for a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yeah, we go ahead and make a motion that we read it for the third and final time by title only.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Paul and a second from Chad to read for third and final reading by title only. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, would the city attorney please read ordinance number 2023-18 by title only?
Ordinance number 2023-18, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Jasper, Indiana, recommending a change in fees for the use of a city-owned cemetery.
Could I have a motion to approve the ordinance in the third and final reading?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Phil, any further discussion?
Mayor, I just wanted to note that even though the fee for the regular plot is going up, it's still a low fee if the township trustee or Department of Family and Children pay for that, for burial for a child.
Any other? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, ordinance number 2023-18 is passed. Ordinance number 2023-19. This is the second. Final reading, if we wish it to be, I guess. Second reading in full or by title only?
Make a motion to read by title only.
Read by title only.
I'll second.
Second from Dave. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
City Attorney, please read ordinance number 2023-19 by title only.
Ordinance number 2023-19, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Jasper, Indiana, recommending 2-hour parking along a city-owned street.
Could I have a motion to approve the ordinance on the second reading?
So move.
Chad,
I'll second.
and a second from Kevin. Is there further discussion on this?
This is making the ease of the turn and allowing the parking outside of the Veterans Office, correct?
Right.
I mean,
Jackson
this
Street.
was- We talked about with the
You can just drive over there and see it in action.
works.
Also, there was some concern about a veteran being charged over the 2 hours. So there was a setup where the police chief put some vouchers in the veterans office to give out to the veterans. So that was a good deal.
That's the system that's being used. Kind of test it out, see if it works.
System, at least through the construction and see how it goes into the future. That was brought before the Board of Public Works, so. Any other discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
And now I would go ahead and make the motion to read by title only for the third and final reading.
I have a motion from Paul to read for third and final reading by title only.
I'll second it.
I have a second from Dave. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Would the city attorney please read ordinance 2023-19 by title only?
Ordinance number 2023-19, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Jasper, Indiana, recommending 2-hour parking along a city-owned street.
I have a motion to approve the ordinance on the third and final reading.
I'll make that motion.
Nancy?
Second?
Second from John. Further discussion? Having none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ordinance number 2023-19 has passed. Ordinance number 2023-20. and this is for the second reading. I think we have do we have public hearing before the reading? So I could open it up for public hearing at this point in time. Is there anyone here that'd like to speak to ordinance number 2023-20, which is an ordinance fixing a schedule of revised rates and charges for the sale of water by the Jasper Municipal Water Utility? Seeing none.
Seeing no public comment, Mayor, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
A motion from Paul to close the public hearing.
I'll second it.
A second from Phil. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I have a motion to read the ordinance on the second reading in full or by title only.
I move that we would read the ordinance by title only.
Chad for title only,
I'll second
and
it.
a second from Dave. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Would the city attorney please read ordinance number 2023-20 by title only?
Ordinance number 2023-20, an ordinance fixing a schedule of revised rates and charges for the sale of water by the Jasper Municipal Water Utility, repealing ordinance number 2019-6.
Could I have a motion to approve the ordinance in the second reading?
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion from Kevin. Second from John. Further discussion? Last meeting, I guess you went through the.
Bud explained everything last meeting.
Comments or questions here? Call for a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And do we want to move to a third and final reading or delay that for a month?
Go to third, go to the third.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to read for the third and final time, the ordinance by title only, please.
We have a motion from Paul for title only.
I'll second.
Second from Chad. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? City Attorney, please read the ordinance by title only.
Ordinance number 2023-20, an ordinance fixing a schedule of revised rates and charges for the sale of water by the Jasper Municipal Water Utility, repealing ordinance number 2019-6.
Do I have a motion to approve the ordinance on the third and final reading?
I'll make that motion.
Kevin?
I'll second.
Second from Paul. Any other comments? Okay, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ordinance 2023-20 is passed. Okay, ordinance number 2023-21. Could I have a motion to read the ordinance on the first reading in full or by title only?
I'd like to make a point that there's an error on the agenda. This is for the second and third reading. We had the first reading at the last meeting.
So this is also going to be a public hearing?
No, we don't need a public hearing on this one. Just the second and third reading.
Motion to read the ordinance by title only.
I'll second that.
Favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? City Attorney, please read ordinance 2023-21 by title only.
Ordinance number 2023-21, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Jasper, Indiana, authorizing the advance payment of certain expenses.
Could I have a motion to approve the ordinance on the second reading?
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion from Dave.
I'll second.
Further discussion? I imagine you had that discussion again last
We did. We did, Mayor. He picked a good one to miss.
No discussion, then I'll call for a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, second reading is passed. I would ask for a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Nancy? And a second from Phil. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? City Attorney, please read 2023-21 by title only.
Ordinance number 2023-21, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Jasper, Indiana, authorizing the advance payment of certain expenses.
I have a motion to approve the ordinance on the third and final reading.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Paul. Any discussion? None, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, I have a resolution. This is available for one reading only procedure. Resolution 2023-8. Could I have a motion to have the resolution read in full or by title only?
Make the motion to read by title only, please.
I have a motion from Paul to read by title only.
I'll second.
I have a second from Dave. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The city attorney, please read resolution 2023-8 by title.
Resolution number 2023-8, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Jasper, Indiana, authorizing funds transfer for Community Crossings Fund.
Could I have a motion to pass and adopt resolution 2023-8?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second from Dave. Further discussion?
I just want to point out that this is simply transferring funds that we already had set aside for the Community Crossings grant into the Community Crossings Fund.
I just want to clarify, we were given two of these resolutions. Section 1 reads different.
There was an error, and I did replace everyone else's, but you had already picked up yours. So it's the,
One is, I couldn't remember which one I had first.
it is,
Dewey Street part.
where is mine? It's version 5 at the bottom.
Oh, that's the one I have in my folder. Is that
So it has Dewey Street, 133, 150, and 2745. Okay, sorry about that.
Vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 2023-8 has passed. Okay. Business before,
Mayor, I had a couple of things. Last time we talked about that reach alert, that, or it doesn't have to be an emergency, just an alert system for the community. And Ken Weber, he could not come to this meeting, but I invited him to come to the September 20th meeting for a demonstration of just what that product is all about. So if that's okay, we'd put him on the agenda for September 20th, and he probably would need, so I would imagine.
No, it's supposed to be the 20th, isn't it?
18th shows a Monday.
Wednesday.
It's a,
I
yeah.
saw that. Still the 20th.
I didn't look at that, but I looked in my calendar and it showed the 20th, so. And then, we probably all had received that letter from the Attorney General about the opioid settlement. And in my recollection, I can't remember that we've decided what to do with that money. And then I just was curious as to when the council would decide how those funds are distributed. I know we've been approached by LifeSpring and by several other entities, but I don't believe we ever made, anyway, a decision on how those, and they are appropriated over 18 years. So just curious as to when we can have that discussion and maybe bring a couple of entities in to request those funds.
to build on what Nancy's saying for a second here too, we had a Region 15 meeting last night, and I'm sure some of you guys heard it at AIM this week as well, but there are now some grant funds available for some recovery housing as well. So if the media would pick that up, there are grant funds available for recovery housing in there. And people want more information on that, they can contact Nathan Held at Region 15 if you're in one of our 6 counties. But
And we have some recovery housing in Jasper now, one for sure for women and another one in the process for men. So again, that could just be one of the entities that would come before us requesting some of these funds.
What your thoughts are if we could schedule a, kind of a public meeting, publicize a meeting date for, I don't know how many, if 1 or 2 of you would be interested in sitting down and allowing community organizations or whoever would be interested to come in and sit down and see how we could collaborate and use the funds together to accomplish, the most that we can with those funds.
Did we get a final number on it?
Continues,
As the settlements come,
So it's ever changing?
I agree with that, Renee. I think there's an opportunity to collaborate with county health department. There's, there's lots of issues that we have in this area. And if we work together toward resolving some of this, we might have a lot more oomph behind it, with combined funds.
According to this letter, our funds could be around $6,600 to $7,000 per year, it looks like.
going to be more than that. I mean, they'll diminish so they'll start out much higher than that, but over time, they'll get smaller.
And we would need to know that before we ever move forward.
Send you, I don't have it in front of me, but I can send you out what we currently know.
We have women's and men's recovery house,
The best use of those funds.
well, and there's some other, like the Lac Springs Recovery Center where they're putting the beds in, that may have some opportunity to have some monies there, not just the Dove House and the Men's Recovery Center.
Putting
There's
in,
some other entities out there that may come and request some of those monies. from
Center
us.
Fifth.
And I think as the mayor said, if you consolidate our money into county's money, you might be able to build something bigger or better.
I think I read maybe where the
Not-
county already decided to, something to do with their money. It was either the county, Huntingburg or Ferdinand, I can't remember. It was in a newspaper article. So some entities have already made decisions with their funds.
I think it'd be good to schedule that to where anyone interested, we have that discussion. That would be the next step. Okay?
And I think we all continue to get these letters and emails in daily. I think it seems now on the outdoor pool, from the RDA perspective, is that design final?
Yeah, it is, and actually today, I'll make this comment, maybe I shouldn't make it, but I was approached by Mayor Winnicky in Evansville, and he's been working with the same design company that we had, with Hafer. He and his deputy mayor, Steve Schaefer, and they came up to me and said, hey, we heard about what's going on with your outdoor pool. So we really liked what we saw and heard. Apparently, they'd been working with Hafer as well, and Hafer had been sharing what we had, and I think they're actually benchmarking us on that outdoor pool facility. So it was a good feeling to hear that Evansville, who got recognized today for one of the awards.
project.
Yeah, it was a project award for place. Forgot what the terminology.
Quality of place.
Quality of place type.
Yeah.
That Evansville is looking at us and what we've modeled.
So to answer your question, this design development was presented to the park board at its last meeting. It will come back to the park board for final approval at the September meeting. And then, assuming it's approved, it will begin the process of construction documents and getting ready for bid.
You've seen the drawings though, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes?
I've heard a lot of good things about it, so, I mean, that's a
Just another
good deal.
As of the Strassenfest came, in there, several of you had gathered in front of our house and that too. And we had a candidate for governor from the other side of the state, from Fort Wayne, that spent there and cornered me for about 15 minutes in the yard, wanted to know about all the different things we had going on in the projects and what we were doing, and really commented on how nice the downtown looked. I mean, just flabbergasted at what we've done down there and all the different projects we have coming. And he said that's exactly what he was pushing for on his agenda for governor. In there is getting some of these public-private partnerships going again, and really kind of use this as a nice benchmark for the southern portion of the state.
As I was leaving the conference today to come back to the office, another mayor met me in the hallway, and he said, I just came from Jasper. He said, I was close enough, and I've always wanted to come down there and see what you guys had going on. And so he took time off after the presentations, came down here to just kind of tour and see what it was about, and came back. So, you know, we've got some good things going on. And I appreciate all the work that's going into it. It's not without a lot of effort.
That's right. Nothing wrong with robbing ideas from other communities
That's
as well.
right.
So.
That's right.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else. If anyone else doesn't, then I would look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Motion from Chad,
I'll second.
second from Dave. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.
Did everybody get the ordinance?